Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Clay from Clay's Collections back again. This time with my Goodwill Outlet Bins Haul, but this haul is all books, I'm afraid, because I found some good ones at the bins. So if you like books, both children and adult books, stay tuned and watch the video. If you don't, that's okay. You could watch another one of mine that has other stuff. Vintage holiday collectibles, glassware, those types of things. So let's just hop into it because I don't want to spend all day looking at books. But we found some great books. This one is not in the best of shape. Look at the cover. Tales from Shakespeare. And I love the bottom. Profusely illustrated. You don't see that term very often. And this is a juvenile version of Shakespeare's plays, and this was done by the Lambs. They interpreted many of these into children's stories, and this is one of those. And it's an inexpensive copy. It's not very good, but I bought it specifically to repair it. So I thought this would be a great book to help work on. It's got some wonderful masking tape both inside and outside, and just needs some love. But I love the cover on it. And speaking of, I found this. I love the cover of this one as well. Look at that, beautiful. Now the back side, not so much. But this is not a normal book. This is actually a picture book of Venice. And so it shows you, this is a huge panoramic one to start with. And it all folds out. And then on the back, it explains what it is. All of it in, here's the English. A great monumental work with which the widening of the tract of the, So it explains it in 4 different languages. So it's a souvenir. I can't exactly figure out when it's from, but I would say the first half of the 20th century, 1900 to 1950, somewhere in there. I could probably narrow it down with a little more research, but I haven't done much research with it. So, but it's a beautiful book. I don't think it has much value. But now the other thing, of course, many people are familiar with Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew books do really well, especially that mid-range series from the 70s into the 80s. Yellow covers, similar to this one, only this is a newer version of it. This is a smooth finish. The others that they look for is a, that's too bad, is a canvas cover. So anyway, so I did find one, but I just realized when I opened it up, it's been water damaged. So that's kind of a bummer. But I didn't realize that, so we'll figure out what to do with that one. But I do really well with Nancy Drew books. Unfortunately, my inventory is almost out, and they're hard to find anymore because so many people are looking for them. But one of the things that were in the bins, and I don't know how well they'll do, but we'll find out, is the Dana Girls mystery series, which is also written by Carolyn Keene. It's a different series than the Nancy Drew. So this lady was very prolific. I didn't realize how prolific she was. So there's some of these, same thing, a series of books. I've got the Mountain Peak Mystery, the Haunted Lagoon, the Mystery of the Stone Tiger, the 100-Year Mystery, and then this one, which is of an earlier publication, The Secret of the Jade Ring. And then we have even earlier publishing, 1930s, 1934, this particular edition. And this one is By the Light of the Study Map. So, and this one's actually in really good condition. And then a couple others. Same thing from this one's 1936. So these are early publications. These are all the Dana Girl series. So there's another one. The Mysterious Fireplace. And The Club in the Cobweb. Clue in the Cobweb, sorry. So yeah, so we'll see how those do for me. Again, when I'm paying less than 50 cents a book for things, you know, I'm willing to risk it. So we'll see how those do. Sorry, I'm thirsty this morning. Got to drink my coffee. Out of my thrifted coffee mug, right? On the 8th day, God made coffee. Little Gorilla, an early start book. And I buy the ones that don't have writing or crayon or anything like that in them. This one does have a little bit of pencil on the front, but that's easy enough to erase right off. Then I found this one, One Terrific Thanksgiving. This was actually a Hennepin Library book withdrawn, but this book is actually, for a children's book, is pretty valuable. It's a $15 book. It's not as common as you'll find in other places. 1985, other publications. And this is the first edition, so nice little find there. So that pays for all of my books because I paid $12 all total for all of these books. Tar Beach. This is a 25th anniversary printing of it. It is a Caldecott winner, which is something to always look for in children's books, which means it won that award. That's good. It's a larger book. Again, these are kind of the bread and butter of what I buy. Stuff that I can sell for around the $5 figure, especially children's books. So that's what I do. Okay, this one, my great-grandparents, Dan and Ethel Harmon, were married by Harold Bell Wright, the author of this book. Before he became a famous author, he was a minister. And it just so happened the town my great-grandparents lived in when they wanted to get married, he was like the only minister in town at that time, even though there are multiple churches. And so he married my great-grandparents, which I have a letter from my great-grandmother, a copy of the letter, my great-grandmother stating as such. And he became the first author to sell over 1 million copies of a book. How's that? So I always pick up his books when I find them, mainly because my mom, you got another one coming. Because my mom has a collection of them. And I don't know if she has this one or not. But, the other interesting thing about this one is this was an advanced copy. So this was one they send out early to get people's opinions. And hopefully they'll write it up in the local newspaper, that kind of thing, to get the publication out. Because this was prior to the days of the internet when it was newspapers that promoted authors and different things like that. So, all right. History of the Spirit Lake Massacre. The Spirit Lake Massacre. This book is a reprint, facsimile of the 1885 first edition, printed on acid-free paper. This one was the 13th edition, printed in 1997. Now, what's interesting is I just happen to have the very first edition from 1885. And guess where I found this? That's right, at the bins. Now this one says 6th edition revised, so it's not the first edition. So I misstated there, but it is the 3rd edition. This one is printed in 1910. So I have 2 versions of it. Now it'd be fun to find the 1st edition, which I think would be even harder to find. But I did read this book. It's a fascinating read. And it was written by one of the survivors of the incident that happened in 1858, I believe, 1856, somewhere in there. So that was a great find. Old Yeller, again, one of my philosophies with books is classic titles. Pick them up. This particular one, while the cover and the book itself, this also was a former library book. You can tell because it's got a barcode on the back. Plus, it's got the library card in the back as well. The first edition was published in the 50s, 1956. And how do I know that this is not a first edition? Because if you open it up to the title page, we'll do a little lesson here. It says 1956 on it. It doesn't have any other dates. It has the ISBN numbers. But if you look at the dust jacket cover, and you look at the very bottom here, Look at that type font. That's computer type font, which didn't really start until the 60s into the 70s that they started using it in mass publications. So that tells me this is not a first edition from the 1956 printing, and if it was, it would have a price of, I believe it was like original price, like $2.50 or $2.75, something like that, which the first edition dust jacket has. So it's not a first edition. It is an earlier edition, and it's in pretty good shape because it's still got the plastic lining on it from the library. So yeah, so then I found this guy. Somebody obviously liked reading this particular guy, Sigurd Olsen, Ruins of the North. He was a naturalist and wrote a lot about things like this is a book of legends, reflections, and adventures set in the vast wilderness of the North that sweeps from the Quantico, Superior, and Hudson Bay to the Yukon and Alaska. So, and he did his own, he wrote this one, which the loon is the Minnesota state bird, so that's a good one. Of Time and Place, picked up this one as well, and Listening Point. So I picked up 3 of his books, and he actually has more. I'm just reading on the back of this one. He lived in Ely, Minnesota. So he's a local author. So again, I have a local, in my books down at the Pink Elephant, I have a local interest section. So these will go in my local interest because he's a Minnesota author. All right, so I went through all of those Carolyn Keene books, right? But I did find another one. This one I was not aware of they published. It's the Nancy Drew Cookbook, also written by Carolyn Keene. So it says Clues to Good Cooking by Carolyn Keene. And so they're actual recipes, and again, aimed at a juvenile audience. So Chief McGinnis's waffles. Nancy's Nutrition Secret. Make a sauce for these waffles by mixing a tablespoon of lemon juice, half a cup of honey, and 2/3 a cup of butter, warm before pouring on the waffles. Sounds good to me. 99-step French toast. Don't worry, it's only a 3-step recipe. There you go. All right, Father Bear Comes Home, another great Andre Sandek, or Maurice Sandek, listen to me, Maurice Sandek book. It has this crayon of 5 cents on the front, easily erasable, and some tear there, but the inside is in excellent condition. So, like that one. Cookbooks are hit and miss with me. I find that regional cookbooks do well, like if it's Italian, Mexican, that type of cookbook does well if it's more of an ethnic variety. So I thought I'd try the chili cookbook. See how that goes. Another one of my book philosophies is carrying classic titles, regardless of the publication date. So I'm not always looking for first or early editions. Wuthering Heights, this is a Reader's Digest version, but people like to collect classic titles and have them for decoration on their bookshelf because that looks great sitting on a bookcase. That's what they're designed for, more for looks, but they are readable, totally readable, but they also look great. So I have several of these Reader's Digest items. I don't price them very high, maybe $5, and I put them on the shelves accordingly. People buy them for decoration, ultimately. Paul Bunyan, another local interest, because we have the Paul Bunyan, portion of Minnesota in northern Minnesota, tourist attraction. So, and I love the graphics on that. I just thought that was in big blue. Thought it was a great book. Okay, George Caitland and the Old Frontier. So this is an art book. I love buying art books that illustrate or emphasize one particular artist, like it does in this case. It's a Native American artist, primarily known for that. And these become great coffee table books. People like them for that. This particular book is a $20 to $25 book, as is. Can't beat that. And another one, last one. Steichen, photographer. Again, it's a book of his photography. Great coffee table book. They're larger, heavier. This one has a price of $20 in it. Somebody gave it as a Christmas present in 1971. Oh, to his parents. But there's also these newspaper articles in here of when the photographer actually died. And so I leave that kind of paraphernalia in the books, just in case the person who buys it has any interest. If not, they can dispose of it. So that was our Goodwill Bins book haul. Great haul for me. Catch you guys next time.